It's a great day. My name is Che Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the #1 business development and revenue focused late night show in the country where we are on a mission. And our mission really is to inspire, our mission is to empower, and our mission really is to provide you, that's right, you, the hard-working entrepreneur, with all of the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. And on this episode, we have the one and only Coach Daryll. She's in the building. And yeah, she'll be talking about how to avoid burnout and stress for teachers, but I think it might apply to some of us as well. What's going on, Coach? How you doing, Coach Daryll?
Hello, I'm beautiful. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's an honor and a privilege to have this conversation with you today. And I know there's a number of folks that are watching and saying, Shay, here we go with avoiding burnout and stress. Now, I'm just curious, and this might be I'm the only one, why are people so stressed out these days? Because, they have AI. You should be able to go to AI and say, how do I relieve my stress? And AI will give you a list of things to do. They can go to Instagram right now and watch any reel, and in 30 seconds, they should be singing along with the song. Yet, forget teachers. We'll come back to the teachers. I'm going to come back to you. But why are just people stressed and burned out these days, man?
Well, you know what? You just answered the question. This AI and Instagram, and I may be dating myself, but basically people trying to keeping up with the Joneses. And that will burn you out because you're constantly comparing yourself to what you see on social media. Women, we're trying to, what was that song? Cook the bacon and do the job and all of these things. And I think for our children, they're burnt out because they're trying to basically keep up with what they think is this perfect persona that they keep seeing on social media all day. And I think it applies to everyone. We're just trying to keep up with the Joneses.
We say to the person that's listening, saying, wait a minute, Shay, remind her that we are dualpreneurs around here. A good part of our audience, they work a full-time job. That keeps me busy. Some of them have also, they're a full-time entrepreneur. That keeps them busy. Some people are like me. They're caregivers of someone that they love. Other people saying, well, I got kids. I got to take care of them. Exactly. Some also saying, wait a minute, I'm involved in my church or I'm involved in my community. I got a lot going on. Okay. So what do you say to that person that feels like they're juggling so many different balls in the air? And so that's what's causing the overwhelming stress. And I realize you're not a psychologist. We're not sitting on a couch. But what would you say to that person that's watching now?
You know what? It is imperative that you make yourself a priority. I'm also a caregiver. My mom has dementia, and I still work full time, and I do my business full time as well. And so I have to make sure that I take time out for me. And it's difficult to do at first because you're going to feel like you're being selfish. And it's like that thing that you hear all the time. You cannot pour from an empty cup. If you don't take the time and prioritize and make sure that your cup is filled and that you only give from your overflow, you're always going to be working at a deficit. You're never going to be able to reach every single thing that you want because you won't have it in you to do it.
And how do you control your mindset so you don't feel guilty? You're right. We can't sit back. I guess my question are the affirmations you tell yourself. How do you adjust your mindset? Because some people, maybe I'm the only one, but they can feel a little guilty. Like, I just feel like I should just be taking care of you instead of me over here relaxing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel that way too. I had to place my mom in an assisted living home. I had her with me for about a year, and it was completely turning my entire house. The energy was totally different. And so I felt very guilty, but I kept telling myself, this is what was best. She's good. She's nearby. I talk to her every day. I go and get her every weekend, but I still make myself a priority first. So you got to make sure that you are scheduling. I would do scheduling, and I would kind of think to myself, if I had a perfect life, or if I could feel and hear and see myself being where I wanted to be, being happy and still being able to be there for whatever it is, else you want to do, then you have to constantly say that to yourself. I started with affirmations. I used to weigh almost 700 pounds, and I had a failed weight loss surgery. And I started with affirmations. My first affirmation was, I am disciplined and focused. It's tattooed right here on my wrist. And I said it all day, every day, but I didn't believe it at first. But that is the power of affirmations and speaking to your subconscious mind. You don't have to believe it. Eventually, you will believe it because you constantly say it, and then you start to act like it, and then you start to live it. And so you just have to go back to basics and say, I don't believe this. However, this is how I'm going to think. And then eventually, thinking it, you will also start to act it.
You're giving us a peek window into the person that you are. I appreciate that. As a caregiver, I understand my mom's also in a senior facility, so I understand that she has Parkinson's. So I do get that. Take a moment, if you will, and give us your backstory. Some folks, they're meeting you for the very first time. I realize you're famous. People all over the world probably know who you are, but there's someone right now in the kitchen that's cooking and saying, I like what I'm hearing, Shay, but I don't know this person. Someone else saying, I was one of the people who's already got a lot of stuff going on. I ain't reading no bio, Shay. I'm here now. Have her slow down. What's her backstory? And then what was that defining moment that led her to say, I'm going to help other people avoid stress and burnout?
Well, let me tell you, my weight dictated every single thing that I did in my life. And I joined Weight Watchers at the age of 7 with my mother. And eventually, I got all the way up to almost 700 pounds. Now, if you ask me, well, how did that happen? I could not tell you. You know how we do? We just go with the flow. And before you know it, you're at this place and you have no idea why you arrived at it. And so I started out helping women with that. Once I lost the weight, and I'm not even going to say once I lost the weight, once I lost the emotional weight, forget about the physical weight. I lost self doubt, self hate, not liking myself. Once I got rid of that, so many doors started to open up for me. And as you can see, I'm still cute, curvy, confident. I just want to be well. I'm not trying to be a size 2. Once I realized that, and I realized that it was most important for me to be happy and well instead of skinny. That's when all of the doors started to open up and all of my light bulbs started to open up. So I started with helping women, and then I saw my colleagues how burnt out they were. I'm a special educator by trade, and so I work in the field of education, and I saw that these teachers are burnt out. And I'm talking about anybody that works in the school. I'm talking about the principal, the speech pathologist, the school psychologist. It is overwhelming. So for me, I said, I can do this and help everyone. And teachers touch tomorrow. So could you imagine if every teacher woke up feeling absolutely amazing, how much they will flourish in their classroom, and think of the impact they will have on children, which will make this world a better place.
I love that. Make this world a better place for you and for I. And I'm joking.
And me.
But
Yes.
I know. I'm dating myself too, but it's okay. I've made it here. So for all those that are laughing at me, just know I'm here. As always remind my sons, I've been your age, but you ain't never been mine. Okay, okay, okay. Topic for another time.
Oh,
Topic for another time. So here's the question I have then. What are maybe 1, 2, or 3 things that you recommend to teachers and all the rest of y'all lean in and listen to? Because I believe
there we
y'all can
go.
benefit. Maybe 1, 2, or 3 strategies that you would give folks so that they can avoid the burnout that takes place every day.
Yes. Well, for teachers, I have a keynote that's called "What's in Your Bag?" Because as a teacher, you will never see us without a teacher bag. But guess what? That goes for anybody. Because some of the men out there, your wallets are so thick, you could barely fit it in your pocket, right? And we, as women, we carry purses. And so I call it my bag framework. And bag stands for, you need to build boundaries. You need to decide when you're going to say no, and no is a sentence. So once you get up that courage and that confidence to build the boundaries so you can make yourself a priority, you're going in the right direction. The next letter is A. Align your mindset with what you want, and that takes in the affirmation. So if you want to be whatever, a six figure, no, excuse me, seven-figure business owner, you're going to start thinking and acting and walking into a room like a seven-figure business owner. But your mindset must align to that. So you start writing it, you start saying it, and those are just some of the strategies. It's way more. And the last letter of bag is G. You're going to have to gain clarity. Gain clarity on what you need to do, what are the next steps, and really decide what you want. When I was almost 700 pounds, I used to say I wanted to be skinny, but not until I defined what that skinny was. And I realized, well, I don't want to be skinny. I just want to be able to walk up down the steps, be able to buy my clothes where I want to buy them, be able to live and live my life out with my husband and our three daughters. And so I realized I didn't really want to be skinny. I just wanted to be well. So you have to gain that clarity.
I love that. Gaining that clarity and making sure that it's where you want it to be, by the way. We're watching you, and I know folks are nosy, looking over your shoulder, saying, Shay, she got a couple things on her wall back there. Are those
Oh yeah.
affirmations? What's one or two that's behind her and that she could read to us? And why is it so near and dear to her that it's right there behind us? We're just nosy, if you
Yeah.
don't mind. We're all curious.
Hey, I don't mind. So, well, first of all, I have my album behind me because I do affirmations and meditations. And so my album is called Highest Version of Me. And guess what? I sing a little bit too. So I have 3 songs on here, but it's mainly affirmations and meditations. And so I put this up to remind myself of how far I've come. And so I make sure I look at it. Then I have Be You, Do You, For You. That's right here. That's no joke. That is what you have to do for yourself. And of course, let me see. What makes you different makes you beautiful. I talked about keeping up with the Joneses. You can't be pretty like person B. You have to be your own pretty. I'm pretty just because I'm me. I don't have to compare myself with anyone else. So I surround myself with positive things and quotes. And because I want to make sure that I see them all the time so that these types of things impact me and not negative things.
Thanks for sharing. Thanks for giving us a peek at the wall, by the way, over there. That's kind of cool. Thanks so much. We have a segment here called Today is My January 1st. Now, for those folks that tune in every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you know what we're about to do. We do it every evening, and you might even wait to say those magical words. In fact, you can say those words. Today is my January 1st. Doesn't that just feel good? Man, that feels so good. And for all the new folks who are tuning in for the very first time, by the way, today is my January 1st is our personal mantra at the Happy Entrepreneur Show. It represents a fresh start. It represents a do-over. It means our past, no matter how dark and gloomy that past is or how bright and sunny that past is, the past no longer equals the future. And so my question for Coach Daryll on the other side is twofold. Number one, when you hear those words, today is my January 1st, what goes to your mind? What goes to your mind? And number two, what was another January 1st moment you had that you had to bounce back from something? And how were you able to do it?
Say, the first thing I think about, and I say this to myself all the time around that time of the year, I'll say to myself, you said this year last year. So I look at that as having a hard conversation with myself. What happened to all of the things that you said you were going to do last year? So when I hear what is my January 1st, my January the 1st is a year that I'm going to do exactly what I said I'm going to do. And so that helps me. And what was the next part of that question?
And what was another setback or challenge you had in your life, and how were you able to bounce back and overcome that?
How many do I have? I would say, I think for me right now, because I also think it's important to be transparent and to say when you're actually going through things. Like right now, I lost my father a couple of years ago, and 3 years later, I lost my only brother on the same day, and then a year later, I was my mother's caretaker. And so now it's been 2 years since that, and I'm really just starting to deal with it. started to deal with that loss of my childhood family, because it was, my parents and my brother. And, don't get me wrong, my life is beautiful. I've been with my husband since the 10th grade. We have three girls. So it's not like I don't have any family, but I'm grieving my childhood family because it no longer exists. So what I'm trying to do right now is to make sure that I create new memories, even though my mother doesn't remember. Every time I go and get her, I take pictures and I give her a little, she has a little photo album, and I put a picture in there every time I see her so that I can remind her of who I am. And that helps me to get over this hump that I'm currently still climbing over. I'm not over it yet, but it's going to be okay. And I've learned to what I need to do, to do. Therapy is the best. I had to go into therapy because it's really hard to deal with that type of grief and loss.
Mm. And I know that again, there's a lot of people at different levels, different spaces in their life. But you talked about you went to therapy, and again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not saying that one's good, better than the other. But what was your reason, at least, of taking that step? And I know in my circle, I'm not going to stereotype, but in my circle, going to therapy is like, oh my gosh, and can't you just go to
Yeah,
the church? Well, can't you just go see the minister? And again, ladies, I'm
exactly.
not passing judgment on whatever your decision is, but I'm going to ask, if you don't mind, Coach Daryl. She could have went to a mentor. She could have went to a lot of places. What was one reason you decided to go to a therapist to get the help you needed? And what's so ironic is she helps other people, and here she is getting help. So, if you don't mind me, I know it's probably personal, but what was
Yes,
that like? What
no.
was your thought process
Um,
like doing that?
I'm glad you asked me because it took me a while. Because the first thing I said to myself, well, I'm a certified life health and success coach. What do you mean you can't deal with this? But I realized it was impacting me physically. I was having more headaches. I was waking up with a headache every day. And I'm just thinking, I'm happy. You know how blessed I am and how grateful I am for everything that I have in my life. Um, but I realized that, first of all, you got to give people their props for their credentials. I'm not a therapist. And so there's a difference between a therapist and a coach. And guess what? I have a coach too. Let's be clear. I have a coach as well for my business. And so I knew that I needed someone who could help me to sort everything out and just to be able to just be myself and not have to worry about um judgment and have that professional advice. Because, of course, I feel very comfortable. My husband knows everything, but he's not a therapist. All he could do is just do a listening ear and hug me. But I needed someone to say, you know what, let's break this down so we can get through these things. My mother and I had a difficult relationship growing up. And so I often would sit here and think, well, she was kind of mean to me and now I'm taking care of her. That's real. That's real life. I needed someone who knew what they were doing. So shout out to the therapist. Shout out to y'all. And I have no shame. No shame. I have a therapist and I will always have a therapist.
What do you seem like you really enjoy what you're doing? What do you enjoy most about what you're doing these days? I can see the smile on your face, the energy comes through. It feels like you can talk about this thing all day long. What do you enjoy most
Okay.
about what you're doing?
What I enjoy most is I spent the majority of my young life and my young adult life not liking myself. And that is a horrible feeling. I tried to commit suicide at the age of 9 because I could not lose the weight. And so being that whole building and world lifted off of me because I didn't know that it could be nice, that I could wake up happy, that I could look in the mirror and say, "Girl, you cute. You're beautiful." I didn't know that existed. So the fact that I'm able to do that now, it would be so selfish and just wrong to not help other people to feel that way, and especially for teachers to help that little girl or little boy who does not like themselves, but they can hear their teacher tell them, "You're fine right here, right now, at this very moment, as you are." So it's a must for me. It's a must.
Wow. Well, I'm so glad you're doing what you're doing. The teaching profession in the world is much better because of the efforts you put out there. And one of the questions I love to ask when we have time, we have a few minutes now, is what's one of the best pieces of advice you've ever been given? And I like to frame it for the audience always so they understand you're a teacher. I mean, you don't count the number of books you read. I'm sure there's unlimited by now. You're a teacher. You must have watched more videos than you can even remember these days. You've got a mentor, you've got a coach, you've got a therapist, you've got a husband, you've got a lot going on. But if you got to step back and say, wow, this is one of the best pieces of advice that ever been given to me that I want to pass on to the audience, what is it and why?
I'm going to tell you, I was in the third grade, and someone had said something to me about my weight, and the gym teacher saw me upset, and he pulled me aside, and he said, just what I just said a few moments ago. It took me a while to believe it, but he said, "Do you know that you're fine just the way that you are? You actually don't need to change for anyone else." Being that young, I didn't know what it was. But now I know, and it's like I'm the only me. There could be 1,000 other women named Daryl, which would be unusual, I know, but there could be. But that Daryl, that Daryl, that Daryl is not me. So I'm worthy just because I'm here. I don't need any other accolades. I don't need any other titles. I don't need anything else. And so that's what I try to make people think about it. You're the only one here that automatically makes you special. Automatically. Before you do anything, you're already worthy of every single thing that you want.
Wow. Let me say a couple things. That's truly amazing. It's incredible. What are you doing for fun then these days? I mean, as you're sharing and inspiring us through here, when you're not out saving the world, you're not out seeing your therapist, you're not taking care of your mom, you're not taking care of the kids at the school, you're not helping teachers not be burned out. What do you do for fun?
Let me tell you, it's so crazy. I like to color.
Wow.
And I put it as a part of my workshops when I'm working with teachers. It's very relaxing, very, very relaxing. And I only use colored pencils. I'm very particular. And it relaxes me. Now I got it on my iPad. So now I'm using my little pen, and it is just very, very relaxing. And I love to sing. And so I'm mad that I only have 3 songs on my album. I'm going to be going back into the studio soon because I realized that I love to sing, and I don't need to be Beyonce. Okay, Beyonce, you all right, but I can stay on. I'm on key. And it makes me feel amazing to have a band behind me and do what you love. Figure out what it is. Go back to your childhood, whatever made you feel really happy, whether it's jumping rope or hula hooping. Start to do those types of things that you remember that made you happy as a childhood. And that's what I do. I have a hula hoop too, and I color. That's
I
why
love
I'm
it.
going
By the way,
to
I love it. You're never too old to have a happy childhood. You know, how true is
freestyle.
that? As we come down the home stretch, two-part question. Number one, what type of clients are you looking to work with these days, if any? And number two, how can folks connect with you? What's the best website or place they can go so they can meet you and stay in this conversation after today?
So the main thing I do is I create recess for teachers. And so my workshops help teachers to avoid and manage their burnt out. And so I work with teachers, however, I also speak. And so what I speak about is just finding yourself and being able to take all that heavy stuff out your bag. And so I can speak about that to any audience. And actually my workshops can be for everyone because as you stated at the beginning of the show, burnout impacts all of us. And I could be found at teacherrecess.com.
Teacherrecess.com. Thanks so much for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. I love your energy. I love what you're doing. I love your mission, goals, and objectives. So I'm looking forward to connecting with you soon. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And thank you. Thank you to viewers. Thank you for tuning in, by the way, because without you, well, we don't have a show. And so thanks for inviting us into your home or into your iPad, or maybe we're on your phone right now, or maybe we're on a big TV monitor, right? You're playing in the background. We appreciate that. And I never get tired of reminding you every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time that no matter what's going on in your life, no matter what you're going through, that today is your January 1st. And because of just that one reason alone, there's no hyperbole here, there's no fluff, there's no rah-rah, I do believe your best is still yet to come. Your best is still yet to come. Your best is yet to come. With that being said, my name, it hasn't changed. It's still Che Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur. Make it a great day, everyone, and we'll make some good things out. We connect again next time. God bless. Peace. See you later, Felicia.